Hi everyone, it's Kavitha. Hope you're having a good Friday morning. Just want to go through a really interesting topic that I have a fair amount of interest in and follow. I guess it's the whole taxis versus Uber, and in particular we're focusing on Airbnb versus hotels. So look, very interesting topic. I think everyone's got their preferences. There's with Airbnb, you find that you can rent out an area for a short amount of time or even a long amount of time in maybe a not so touristy area. You could have the full house, you could have a room with a family and you interact with that family. There's some real versatility with Airbnb because you've got potentially the access to more of your local community. Look, I think it's a really great strategy. I think especially if you're a sole traveller and you might want to live in with a family for a week, say if you're in New York, what better way to do it than if on Airbnb and interact with that family. And I know of people that do that while they travel, either for work or for pleasure. Then there's obviously the hotels, which are very reliable, but you've got, every room sort of looks the same, other than if you're sort of upgraded to a bigger or a suite or something like that, but it's got the same basis. You do have your community interaction in your bars and your restaurants and sometimes your business centres, but you don't have, it's more with other travellers, it's not really with the locals. So I guess you've got that separation. So you could check into a 5-star hotel and never really interact with a local. And look, I mean, sometimes you could choose then to do day tours and interact with people that way, or do it a different way, and still be in your hotel. But I guess the Airbnb allows you to do it a bit easier because you could be next door to a local and interact with them, and you've got your own house. You don't have you don't have to tip anyone. You don't have to tip a concierge for getting you your bags. It's just you're sort of left to your own devices, and that could be a good thing or a bad thing for you. I've got friends that really like Airbnb, and that's their preference of travel for business and for pleasure. I've got a friend in particular that goes to Brisbane quite regularly from Melbourne and stays predominantly in Airbnb, and it'll be a house with an ensuite in a large room with an ensuite in a large house, and he gets to meet locals, and he also goes and stays in different areas, and he's actually a developer, so he gets to learn about those areas. So it's a really interesting way of doing it, and it can cost him as low as $40 a night, which would be really hard to find for a nice hotel, because some of these houses are amazing and luxurious. My preference personally is hotels. I like knowing what I'm getting. I have stayed in Airbnb. I had a bad experience staying in one in Potts Point. Very noisy, couldn't sleep. The house was nice, but it just wasn't. I just prefer hotels. I like that my sheets are cleaned, my bed's made. I like paying for that because it's sort of getting away from home, whereas I feel like I'm sort of at home again when I'm in Airbnb, because you kind of have to do your own things like cooking and stuff, and you can't really order room service. But that's just my preference of travel, and just maybe more my personality type, and everyone's different. Now, how is this all related to investment and property development? So one of the things that a lot of investors or owners can do is rent out their properties on Airbnb. Very good strategy. Just keep in mind there is going to be more wear and tear on your property. The costs of cleaning, management, all of that is going to be different and higher. There is going to be higher vacancy rate, so you need to consider that. You also have to furnish it and provide utilities, so just consider that in your calculations. But generally, if you're in a really good area that has high traffic of tourists, it will work out better. But then you've also got to consider all the other factors. I mean, financially it should work out better, but you need to consider all those other factors. Like for myself, I'm not sure if I'd want it if it was a unit or apartment that was really important to me, and I didn't want to I didn't want the traffic through, and I didn't want the vacancy through and the unreliability of it all. So yeah, just something to consider. But if I had something that was I don't know, a $400,000 one bedroom in the city in Melbourne, and it was 10 years old, 15 years old, I could potentially rent it out at 100 or 100 to 150 a night, instead of like 300-400 a week, and so that just makes sense to me, like doing something like that. And it should be if it's presented well, you shouldn't have any issues with renting that. So yeah, just something to consider, and really interesting topic. I will be online for the next 30 minutes, so if you've got any questions, just drop me a message on this Facebook live feed, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.